Welcome back to Not Another Mindset Show. It is that time again to batch record these episodes, and I literally can't believe it. Like, when it showed up on my task list, it was like, there's no way. There's no way. It's been another month already. I think the last month just really flew by. What is today? It is the beginning of September. What? It's like September 2nd today, I think. Don't quote me on that. But the last month just like, it flew by, and I know why it did, because it was health mindset coaching certification launch time frame. And there's just so much going on in that month. So I'm not surprised, but also I'm like, I literally had to double check the calendar and be like, someone put this in here wrong. I'm not supposed to be doing podcast episodes this week. It's not possible, but it is. And here we are. I got back from Denver on Sunday, and I am still recovering. Turns out, after the age of 30, going to raves is a lot harder to recover from. Oh my goodness. For those of you who don't know, I live multiple lives, and one of those lives is as a bass head. So for those of you who are listening, my dubstep fans, my heavy bass music obsessed friends, I see you and I love you. But I'm also getting old, I believe. It's like, it's Tuesday. The show was on Friday. Please tell me why I still feel like I got steamrolled. Anyway, so we're recovering. Hopefully brain will get back online for this episode, which is funny because I'm talking about living different lives. You know, I'm actually made a post on Instagram about this today because Skrillex, for those of you, I mean, everybody knows who Skrillex is, right? You don't have to be like into EDM to know Skrillex. I freaking hope. Bangarang, which is a really classic song from Skrillex, actually came out 12 years ago. And I'm like, speaking of feeling old, like I remember sitting in the basement of my dorm room in college, like listening to Bangarang over and over again because it had just dropped then, and it was so good, and it's still so good. It's still slaps. And it was trending on Instagram, and I'm like, oh my God, this song is trending. I have to do something with it. I have to make some sort of reel. So I was trying to figure out how can I like make some form of like mindset content with this song in the background. And like, I'm sorry, but like Skrillex and mindset science just like do not fit in the same box at all. And so I was like having this moment of the fact that this is the type of music that I hold so near and dear to my heart. But also I'm like this academic researcher, mentor, etc. It's just like, it speaks volumes to the range that I am as a person. So that's what the post became about, not necessarily like anything about mindset science and like teaching anything. But it's funny because this actually fits in with what I'm talking to you lovely people about today, which is identity and changing aspects of your life, which then change aspects of who you are and just your ever evolving self. And how mindset obviously plays a role in this, and needing to get kind of more comfortable with this new version of you and what that looks like. And it's not sunshine and rainbows all the time, and it can feel really difficult. And I want to talk a little bit about that difficulty today, and also just really encourage you to think about all the different facets of who you are, and how, even though if those things don't necessarily seem like they fit in a nice tidy box, like that's actually the most interesting thing about yourself. This is also me telling myself this. I also had a really cool experience, I guess, today that I didn't recognize until after I was leaving the yoga studio. I promise I'm going to tie this all into like what we're actually talking about today. But I went to yoga this morning, and we were practicing headstands in class. at one point, and the instructor had moved over to the side of the room that I was on, and I was mid headstand, and I fell forward. And for those of you who like do handstands, headstands, whatever, it's obviously a lot more comfortable to like fall backwards, like back onto your legs versus like in front of you. You also like worry about falling on top of other people when you're falling forward. But so I fell forward, but kind of like I slowed it down, caught myself gracefully, whatever. And the instructor was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, sorry. Like, I thought I was like getting close to him. And he was like, no, like you fell so gracefully. Like, clearly there's a lot of like strength in your body to be able to like fall that way, not fall like suddenly and like erratically. And again, like it's not comfortable to fall that way, right? To like fall like head over heels, basically. And I thanked him and was like, yeah, I don't know if it's so much the strength or that I'm just like not scared to fall. And he looks at me and he goes, that is profound, as a yoga instructor would, and walks away. And I was just like, okay, carry on with the class. And as I was leaving, thinking about coming home and recording podcasts and stuff and how I'm talking about identity and mindset and all of the things that we talk about here, I was thinking to myself just how cool actually it is that my immediate response with no thought whatsoever, just how I reacted to this situation with the instructor when I said, either that or I'm not scared to fall. And that was just my immediate reaction. And it obviously like translates to the fact that like I'm not scared to fail. I'm not scared to fall over. You know, when I'm trying these things, I'm trying these challenging things. Like, you haven't tried like headstands, handstands, like they ain't easy, okay? Especially talking about like this old fart over here who can't even freaking hang at a rave anymore, apparently. Jeez. And just how that is really how I operate my life. And people ask me all the time to talk a little bit more about my own mindset, you know, being someone who has spent so much time in the land of mindset research and helping other people with their mindset and teaching skills and strategies how to cultivate a growth mindset. But like, what is the mindset of the mindset researcher? Like, what does that look like? And that I just feel like is a really good example, because I didn't even really know that I was doing it, but I was showcasing a growth mindset in that moment. And evidently it was profound. I've never actually I don't think I've ever got that kind of compliment before. Being profound, like we love that, you know? But I didn't really think anything of it. And then later upon reflecting on it, and I think this is a lot of why it's almost hard for me to answer anything about my own mindset, because it is so ingrained. Like it is carved into my brain regions at this point to react in a way that is more growth mindset oriented. And yes, I strength train. Yes, I have like core development. So when I fall, I can fall in a way that's like, but I'm not freaked out. And I really think that that's the biggest thing. I don't really think it has anything to do with the strength of my body in order to fall forward gracefully out of a headstand, but more so that I'm expecting to fall. I know that that's part of the process of developing your skill in a headstand. And so when I do, I kind of embrace it. And that's what allowed for a more graceful fall rather than a freaked out fall where I'm like, limbs are everywhere or whatever. I guess what he was expecting, right? What he usually sees from these falls. So yeah, I wanted to share that because I think it's part of the process too, when your identity is being upgraded, like who you are is like actively changing before your eyes, whether you are trying to do it or not. And you will miss it. You will miss aspects of those changes unless you're paying attention and you're reflecting. So if you take away anything from this episode, let it be that. Take more time to reflect on where you're at and the things that you are doing that are getting you closer to the person that you want to be, the life that you want to have, etc. So with that said, we're going to talk about essentially the difficulty that comes with upgrading yourself, learning new skills, developing, growing, changing, and how it's really such a beautiful process, but it can be a painful motherfucker sometimes. It really can. And I think we ask ourselves these questions all of the time. Those of you that are coaches, I know a lot of you are, you're talking to your clients about this all the time. Inside the health mindset coaching certification level 2, we have an entire module on identity. It's funny because there's so many weird like timing coincidences here, because right now we have level 2 running. It only runs once per year. And we're actually in the middle of like the identity couple of weeks, like that module right now. So gosh, there's like so many aligned things for this episode. Synchronicities or something, right? If you are a coach, and likely you're doing this for yourself too, I know many of you are listening because you are just into personal development. Mindset is obviously included in that. We ask these questions all the time, right? Like, who is it that you want to be? What would the best version of yourself do in this situation? What qualities do you see in other people that you would love to cultivate in yourself? We are asking these type of questions all of the time. And I think it's really important to note before we get into a lot of this too, that you are absolutely 110% enough as you are right now. But you are also allowed, and allow yourself to do this, you are allowed to strive for improvement. And I think that this is like, it's said so simply, but it is such a complex concept of how can I be happy with myself now, but also strive for improvement, to get better, to develop, to grow. And speaking from a health and fitness context, which we do a lot here because I mainly help health and fitness coaches, it's can bleed over into other concepts too when we're talking about like body composition changes and like strength and things like that, that we really, really need to cultivate this self-acceptance and self-love for the current situation. But that doesn't mean it's wrong for you to want to change your body or change your level of strength or change your lifestyle or your mindset or like any of these things, right? It just, what is most important is that it's coming from a place of love, and it's not coming from a place of like, I hate myself, I don't like this about myself. Because honestly, that's not the fuel for the fire that you want, if you want that fire to keep burning forever and ever, which is the goal with so much of this stuff, right? So anyway, if you're looking to improve something about yourself, which I'm pretty sure I would literally bet money that every single person who's listening to this episode right now is trying to do that. And also, like, honestly, I think about this stuff and I'm like, are there people out there who just truly don't care to improve anything ever? Like, that sounds so boring, but at the same time, then we beat ourselves up for not being like happy enough as we are. And I really do believe that there's a place where you can be happy now and want to improve. And like, that's the place that I so desire for all of you to get to, and so desire for you to be able to help your clients get to. So on that note, change in life is inevitable, right? Like, change is going to happen whether you like it or not. Obviously, we can play a part in making changes and deciding like, I'm going to change this thing about myself. I'm going to get better in this area. I'm going to improve this. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to whatever. But change is still going to happen regardless if you have a hand in it or not. That said, just because change is inevitable does not mean that growth is. And especially when it comes to change that happens in our lives that we don't necessarily have a hand in, that we're not saying, I want to change this. It just happens because, hello, welcome to the human condition. Like, change is always happening, but growth is optional in those cases. And actually all of the cases, even if you decide right now, I want to change this aspect, this trait, this whatever about myself, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to grow from that process. You may make those changes, you may follow guidelines blindly, but you're not actually growing as a person in that process. Change is inevitable, growth is optional. So, what do we do with this information? Because the reason the growth is optional is because you do have to kind of make a choice, because that growth is hard. It's hard. But here's the thing. I want you all to take a second, maybe even pause this if you choose to, and think about that ideal version of yourself. It's like such a hard question, I know. A hard thing to ponder, because like I'm thinking about myself, for instance. Anytime I ask you guys a question, I'm like, okay, let me make sure I can answer this question. That's where this is coming from. Because I really love myself. Like I do. And I really like who I am as a person. I like all the different facets of myself. But there's always things that I want to continue to improve. Some of that is truly mindset, believe it or not, I'm still working on my mindset over here. And how I like respond to things, and how I want to show up for people in my life and for my team, how like leadership opportunities, things like that. Like I'm constantly seeking growth and improvement in those areas. And in order to be the best leader, the best friend, the best person, like that ideal version of Dr. Kasey Jo, that person perseveres. That person sees hard things as opportunities for development, doesn't shy away from the hard stuff. Challenges are inevitable, but they're things that she gets through, right? And I think I do a lot of that as it stands, right? But that is part of like my ideal self. And I would be willing to bet that that is not unique to me. That you are listening to this and thinking about the ideal version of yourself, and that person likely has a lot of those same characteristics and qualities. And where this is interesting is I want you to think about your relationship with challenge and when things get hard, and how you currently react to that. Because if in this process of becoming this person, this ideal self, achieving these goals, reaching this level of status, authority, you're climbing the ladder at work, you're building this business, you have X amount of clients, your children are thriving, whatever these goals are, and the hand that you're playing in achieving those goals, the person that requires you to be in order to do those things, all of that, that person is going to face challenges, and it's going to be challenging to get to be that person. I hope you're sticking with me here, because this is starting to get a little bit topsy-turvy. But understand that doing the hard things and working through the hard stuff is part of that identity that you want to hold. So if the person that you want to be is someone who perseveres in the face of difficulties, setbacks, obstacles, they see challenges as opportunities and they grab them by the balls and they're ready for anything, then right now, if things feel hard and challenging and it's making you think, man, maybe I'm not cut out for this stuff. Maybe I'm not meant to be that person. Maybe I have this like vision for who I could be, and that's not actually going to be the case, because this feels really hard right now. This feels really challenging. So on the road to becoming that person, you're running into challenges and obstacles, and you're using that as evidence as to why you can't be that person. But that person that you want to be has challenges, has hardship, has obstacles. So the reality is quite the opposite, because if the person that you want to be is the perseverer, is the one who is taking these challenges and using them and leveraging them and working through them, that means that person sees hardship. That person sees challenges. Your ideal self will go through hard shit, just like you are going through hard shit right now to become your ideal self. So if it feels hard right now, and you're going through the hard shit right now, that is not an indicator that you are not cut out for this, that you cannot become that ideal person. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You are already becoming that person. Do you get what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? I freaking hope so, because I feel like I just said this the same the same thing 16 different ways in the last 5 minutes. So anyway, moving on. That is like really the main thing I wanted to drive home here. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of coaches, business owners. I do one-on-one mentorship, but also have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of coaches inside the Health Mindset Coaching certification right now. And this is something that comes up a lot, and which is why I originally wanted to talk about it on the podcast. It's this idea that, oh, this is so hard. This is so challenging. Like, maybe this isn't really what I'm meant to be doing. Like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. It's like, no, that's not ever going to stop. The person that you want to be, do you think that they have challenges, that they have hard shit that they have to work through? Of course. So if you are going through hard shit right now, all that's doing is preparing you to become that person that you want to be. You're already doing it. You are literally doing it, my friend. Okay? That person you want to be, do they do hard things? Are they perseverers? The answer, I'm sure, I am certain, is yes. Which means if you are doing those things right now, you're already on your way there. Challenge often means you are on the brink of an upgrade. If you're pushing against something, if you're feeling the friction, that means that something is changing. Something different is ahead. And that difference is like what you're seeking. So embrace it, feel it, revel in it, at least try to. This is actually coming from a specific example from a gal that I'm working with right now inside the Growth Collective, which is my one-on-one mentorship program. It's not really a program. It really is just mentorship. You get to work with me one-on-one. You're in a small group of other entrepreneurs, and we help each other grow. So with that, she did her check-in with me. So I do a check-in with them once a month. We do a phone call once a month. That's kind of like the general cadence is that we have some sort of formal touch point every 2 weeks. In this recent formal touch point, she was just saying how it just feels like everything is so challenging right now. Like there's so many things, like plates spinning, and it all just feels really hard. And she was like really getting down on herself with that. And like, this was the exact conversation I was having with her. It's like, if stuff is feeling hard and you're feeling that friction, it means that you're literally the light is at the end of the tunnel for that next like upgrade, whether it's identity upgrade, business upgrade, business growth, right? There's always growth, opportunity, improvement on the other side of that hard shit, of the friction, of the challenge. So just keeping that in mind, that this is part of the process, and being able to really sit with that and truly believe that if this is hard right now, that means that I'm on to something. Just think about how different things would be for you if you could really, really sit in that and believe that and lean in to those challenges. And maybe it's not all falling apart, right? And that's how it can feel when you're working on so many different things and stuff isn't working, stuff isn't clicking, and just it's all falling apart. It's not working, right? So this is really not what I'm meant to be doing. But the reality is, when things are falling apart, that more often than not means that they're also coming together. Things often need to fall apart in order for you to figure out what actually works, what actually sticks, what's actually going to make the most sense for you, what is actually the correct path for you to be on. And this goes so far beyond like business and even personal development. It's just like every single time, my friends, think about it. You've had something really intense happen in your life, a really big life challenge, something, rug got ripped out from underneath you, things started going a different direction than you would have ever imagined, and it felt like, oh my God, everything is falling apart. How am I going to survive this? When you've had instances like that, which we all have had instances like that, and can you tell me right now, looking back on that situation, that it did not put you on a potentially even better path? It really shone a light on what you needed to be doing instead, where you should have been going, and gave you new opportunities, new people, new situations, circumstances that you would have never been able to experience if it wasn't for that big horrific thing, right? So ultimately, wanting you to keep in mind that for you, for your clients, for your children, anyone that you're making an impact on, which again is the person that you're making the biggest impact on is always going to be yourself, to keep in mind and to keep teaching and to keep this just front and center of everything. The goal is not to get rid of hardship. The goal is not to get rid of challenges and obstacles and failure and setbacks. It's to instead change the meaning of those things. Just like I did with my in yoga class, right? With the headstand. It wasn't oh my gosh, that was a failure. I'm not going to ever be able to do this. I fell again. Like, that's so embarrassing right in front of the instructor. It was like, no, I expected this and I'm not scared of it. Don't be scared of hardship. Don't be scared of failing. Don't be scared of setbacks. Don't be worried that it's not going to go correctly. It's inevitable. It's all inevitable. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of the process. You get to decide, though, if that's the case for you. You get to decide what things mean. You get to decide what hardship and challenge means. So next time you feel discouraged, you feel not cut out for something, think about what that challenging situation is requiring of you in the moment. Because I bet it actually fits the identity that you're working towards, that person that you want to be. That friction that you're feeling actually means that you're well on your way, because that person that you want to be, that ideal self, that best self, he or she, they are still going to face hard stuff, but they're making their way through it. So this is your first opportunity to show up as that person, as that best self, and persevere and work through that stuff and embrace the challenge, just like you inevitably will become if you start doing it now. Whew. Okay. I think that's all I got. I hope this was helpful. And I hope it wasn't too many circular conversations about the same thing. And I wanted to be able to drive it home and say it in a few different directions, because I know when I say something, some ways it will hit one person and it'll hit another person a different way if I say it a different way. Anyway, see, now I'm doing it in. I'm just going to stop. We're just going to stop there. I hope this was helpful. Please, please, please reach out and let me know if it was. I feel like this was a little bit more of just like a philosophical conversation, if you will. I have no idea what that noise is. I've never heard it in my life. I don't even know if you can hear it in the microphone, but that just scared the crap out of me, and we got that on camera. So, I'm going to go figure out why my computer is making a noise I've never heard before. And we're going to stop it there. That like really scared me. Hope you enjoyed the philosophizing. Please let me know if you did. Shoot me a DM. I've been really, really enjoying chatting with you guys in the DMs, hearing from you about which episodes really hit and which ones could have been like you would have liked it a different direction. I haven't had anyone reach out and go, I hated this episode, but I have had some of you say like, I really like this. It would have been cool if you had some more stories. And it's like, done, say less. Like I really, really do appreciate your feedback. Speaking of feedback, if you leave a review, don't just leave a review. Number one, please leave a review. I really appreciate it. But when you do, make sure you screenshot the review, put it into the form that we have linked in the show notes, because you'll be entered to win a giveaway. In fact, it's the beginning of the month, so I get to choose a giveaway winner. We're doing it every single month. You get a free workshop, DIY workshop of mine of your choosing. And yeah, so we're actually going to wrap up the episode now. I promise we're done. Goodbye. I'll see you next time.